So it's not all fun and games here, the Rerun Project. I'm talking about something deep, literally, that happened in 2010.
What was that?
That was the Deepwater Horizon oil spill.
Oh, shit. That's right.
I know. We all sort of forgot about it, so we're reminding you that, in 2010, in April, was the largest marine oil spill in the history of the petroleum industry.
And the history of the world, basically.
History of the world,
yeah,
basically.
I mean, I just remember watching it on TV, and it was like this beautiful, pristine blue water in the Gulf of Mexico, and just this black oil was just gushing for what seemed like just months and months and months. I mean, you just turn on the news, and it's like, it's still going.
It was declared sealed in September, but reports in early 2012 indicated that the well site was still leaking.
Nice.
So, everybody can't apparently do their jobs.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I was young when Exxon Valdez leaked, and so, but I was
and all the little birds coated with oil, and they got the Dawn out, and the Dawn. I tell you what, those Dawn people,
so smart
commercials cleaning off the seagulls with all that shit.
The Dawn, yeah. So it was a pretty bad scenario, and it really just sort of set up a period of time where we kind of didn't care about the environment, and now we're sort of dealing with the repercussions of that here in 2020.
Go, Greta.
Memories light the corners of my mind. Misty watercolor memories.
Of the way we were, scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were.
Hello, this is Allie.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And this is the Rewind Project. And today we are talking about one of my favorite movies, I would say, Black Swan.
I would say it's probably the best ballet horror movie I've ever seen.
Okay. I mean, it's probably the only one in that genre. In that genre, we're going to talk about that for sure.
I actually do like this movie. I made that sounded like a dig, but I mean, it's a very specific genre.
It is. It is. And, well, and it's interesting because, dance movies are their own sort of genre in and of itself. So we dive in a little deeper into the psyche on this one. So Black Swan, directed by Darren Aronofsky, whom you might know recently from the movie Mother. Did you guys see Mother?
No.
I started watching Mother, and honestly, I couldn't get that into it. It was so creepy, so incredibly creepy. I
saw Mother in the movie theater by myself because I'm an insane person. I know. And it was really, really fucking weird. I don't shy away from weird, so I was okay with that. But it ended, and I was like, first of all, I wish that I had maybe been high while I was watching it. Perhaps I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I feel like you can say that about a lot of Darren Aronofsky movies. Like, you could be high, and this might be a different experience.
I would be afraid to watch Black Swan high. I think I would. I might.
You would go
freak out.
Yeah.
I think I might just have a meltdown on the couch.
I think it depends on what you're actually high on. Like LSD might be actually a little bit too much.
Or even like a little ecstasy, maybe.
Yeah.
Like chilling out.
Just a gummy.
Just an edible. We're good.
Actually, you know what? Glass of wine. I think this is just. I'm gonna stick to a glass.
Maybe a little Xanax. Pick your poison. So, directed by Darren Aronofsky, who we already know is, on the creepy tip in most of his movies, and, very dark, both in actual color and in type of movie that he chooses. It was written by Mark Heyman, John McLaughlin, and Andres Hines, based on an original story by Hines. So that is, and Eric always makes fun of me because I generally put these really long plot descriptions in our outlines, but this one I did short, and so this is the very bland description. It is not at all representative of the movie, but a committed dancer struggles to maintain her sanity after winning the lead role in a production of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake.
That sums it up. I mean, that's a very bold strokes, but
yes,
that's the movie.
Yeah. So.
Really, it kind of strikes me in terms of conflict. Nina really has the one thing that Thomas, who we will talk about, who's so fucking problematic, but he is He says the smartest thing in the whole movie is when he looks at her and says, the only thing holding you back is you. Mm-hmm. She really has no problems in this movie. She's a young ballerina who gets the role of a lifetime. And then she dances it. That's the movie.
That's it.
Except she's going fucking bonkers while it's happening, and she is totally in her own way.
You think there's more?
Yeah, there's a lot that she's dealing with in this movie. She's been, I mean, the whole thing is about metamorphosis. And she is a kid that's never actually been allowed to grow up into an adult.
Yeah, well, she's a 23-year-old prepubescent child.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about we'll talk about the ultimate stage mom
Yeah.
when it
Barbara
comes to that.
Hershey is fucking fantastic.
Oh my God, she's so good.
Mothering stage mother. But yeah, I mean, she's got issues, and she's got maturing issues, and but I mean, in terms of just like a physical, tangible goal, she achieves it very early on in this movie, and then she just has to deal with her success. And jealousy.
Yeah, she never really struggles. It's not a movie where she's like, I don't know if I can get this part, or I'm just in the core. I mean, she's a well-known entity within the ballet company. So
and she gets the role.
Right.
I mean, and that's not to say that there's no conflict in this movie, but it's all internal. She is in her own way. She needs to grow up, and she needs to not be jealous of people, and she needs to stand up to her mother, and she needs to tell her fucking choreographer director to keep his dick in his pants. And she needs to, I mean, all these things, and she needs to like get over her worship of this very damaged former diva of the company. She needs to get over a lot, but it's her.
It's all
like
her.
A very internal story.
I feel like we were watching two separate movies. I
Really
do, yeah.
What do you see as the major conflict?
I see the major conflict. Right, she has to get over herself, but she has never been allowed to actually grow up, and she's definitely this person that follows the rules, and she is smothered by her mother. It's very subtle, but her mom used to be a prima ballerina herself, or tried to be a prima ballerina.
She was only in the core. The most cutting of all insults.
Yes. And she's living vicariously through her
Absolutely.
daughter.
Very Gypsy Rose Lee.
I mean,
Yes.
she won't give this girl a moment of privacy. I mean, the girl has to get a bar to close the door because there are no locks. And she's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some parenting issues that are going
totally.
on
No.
that she is struggling
Yes.
with.
Just a
she was not
smidge.
born into a perfect family,
No.
and she's just all in her own way. But she's 23 years old. At
Yes.
one point, halfway through the movie, she looks at her mom and says, "I'm moving out." And I'm like, finally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you fucking needed to say.
Right.
I'm moving out. She's an adult. I mean, it's just like, do it. Her mom is a monster and a nightmare and got all that. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's just like, in terms of most movies, they're like, this is my goal, and I will spend the entirety of my movie trying to reach my goal. Mm-hmm. And I guess, everyone's goal is to be happy, I guess. And so, there's some stuff on her way from that goal. But in terms of what is supposed to symbolize her happiness is getting this part, and she gets it.
Well, and I guess that's an interesting discussion about whether the movie is good or not good, or, if you need to have a conflict in a movie. I mean, we'll discuss all those things. So we've talked a little bit about the cast, but let's kick it off. So Natalie Portman is Nina Sayers, who very rightfully so won the Best Actress Oscar this year.
I think so.
For this.
Yeah, she was amazing. To me, it really does show the power of a director, either in a good way or a bad way. If anyone out there who's listening to this only knows Natalie Portman from those god-awful Star Wars prequels, please know that she's such a good actor.
She's excellent.
And you just wouldn't know. She's so wooden and terrible in those movies. She's awful in those movies.
I mean, those movies are awful. Please don't come at me, Star Wars Tribe. But, those prequel movies are all bad in,
But I
every way.
remember, do you remember Natalie Portman's film debut? Has anyone seen The Professional?
The Professional, yeah, of course.
So good. Just last week we talked about Hit Girl.
Yep.
Right? So another kind of like
She was
badass
12 in that movie, Natalie
little girl.
Portman, yeah.
It's the same character, same Bob, same.
Yep.
It's not purple, but I mean, it's just and I kind of wonder if the people who made, Kick-Ass were looking at The Professional. But then Beautiful Girls. Do you remember Beautiful Girls?
Of course.
She was so
I love that
great
movie.
in that movie. And she was, 14, 15?
Yeah.
And so she was this child prodigy, amazing actor for a while. And this was kind of one of the first things she did after those god-awful Star Wars. That was, an adult role that she kind of owned.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think that either her or her agent was like, yeah, we're going to need something a little different than the Star Wars movies. Get you out there as a leading actress so you're not sort of mired in the BS of those movies.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. So
Yep.
good. I mean, there's
So
nothing.
good.
I have some faults with this movie, but none of them have to do with her performance.
No.
It's great.
Then as Lily Mila Kunis, whom I also love, I adore her.
I wish she was in more stuff.
I wish she was in more stuff. I wish people knew her more for things other than That 70s Show, which, had a place
And the
and
bourbon
time.
commercials.
Yeah, and
Family Guy.
and Family Guy. She does a lot of voice work, actually. She's sort of in that Seth MacFarlane, Seth MacFarlane crew. Does a lot of his stuff. But she's so good. She's so good, and I wish she got her due a little bit more than she did. But she's a great sort of counter to Natalie Portman's character. So the story of Swan Lake, very rudimentarily from somebody who's not a ballet dancer, is you have a woman who is a swan and she meets a prince, right?
Uh-huh.
And comes out of the swan body and falls in love with the prince, but
Every
then
full moon, she turns into a woman.
falls in love, and then her evil twin, the Black Swan, swoops in, literally, and takes the prince, and then sometimes the interpretation is at the end she kills herself.
Yes.
So it's Odette and
Odile.
Odile.
Odile is the Swan Queen. Usually Odile, who is her doppelganger, is
Right.
actually not a twin, but she's created by the same evil sorcerer that put the spell on her that turned her into a swan. And he's trying to make sure he wants the swan to remain a swan forever. The spell indicates that if she finds true love and someone will pledge themselves to her, the spell will be broken. And so the prince is supposed to be that guy. And so he brings in what is in this movie referred to constantly as the Black Swan to stop that from happening. So the prince marries somebody else.
Right.
And therefore his swan will remain a swan forever. And in most productions, she's like, F that. If I'm going to be a swan for the rest of my life, I'm killing myself.
I'm out.
Peace out. And sometimes she kills herself. Sometimes she and the prince kill themselves together. Sometimes she is killed by the sorcerer for no real good reason. But we had talked about this before we started recording. What I've learned recently about ballet is that really as long as you stick to a rudimentary plot outline and don't touch the score is the one thing that is sacrosanct. So every note of Tchaikovsky needs to be exactly the way he wrote it. And from there on, the choreographer can kind of do whatever they want.
Which is bananas to me. I would have never thought that. And, I would have thought that ballet being a fairly rigid art would be as rigid in their interpretations as well.
Well, and there is, and I learned from a friend of mine who went to Interlaken performing.
Oh, boy.
There is the Bolshoi choreography is really well known, and that is what most ballet companies stick to. That is the traditional choreography. And that's where you get the on point with the arms flailing like their wings. And we saw a little bit of that in the movie, about how somebody behaves when they're a swan versus when they're a woman, and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, Matthew Bourne he redid Swan Lake years ago. It just came through DC in the Kennedy Center. And all of his swans are men. And so he does this very homoerotic version because the prince is still a man, but all the swans are men. But all of his other suitors are women. And so it's the idea of, he met this swan king who kind of rang his bells and
ruffled his feathers.
Yes. And, they have these feathered kind of legs, but they're completely shirtless because it's male ballet dancers. So,
why not?
Yeah, it's
Matt is fanning
feast
himself.
for the eyes. Yes.
So the next character, Eric has already mentioned, but Vincent Cassel, a French actor, as Thomas Leroy.
Trash. Utter trash.
It was really interesting to watch this movie in the era of Me Too.
Totally.
Because, there is the trope of, creepy men in positions of power who use sexuality to get what they want, to use their sexuality to get what they want. And there's a lot of this, and it's very blatant. And I remember, I've only seen this movie once in the movie theater in 2010, and I didn't remember, or maybe it's just I'm more aware of it now, the blatant, grossness of Thomas. And, he's, attacking Nina and, maybe not having sex with Lily and just, using his power, and just, it is very trash.
And what was even more disturbing to me watching it now is not just the fact that he takes for granted that he can, fuck anyone he wants and do whatever he wants to all these women, but that everyone else just automatically assumes that Nina is fucking him.
Yes,
You know,
the
it's
entire
just-
movie.
and without a whole lot of judgment. Even it's just
That's what you did.
that's what you're doing. Obviously, you're with him, and and so Lily just so how is he? You know, as though that's a normal topic
Like,
of conversation. He is their boss.
Just a chat.
You know, and I think that I do get frustrated with people who have different rules for arts organizations than anywhere else you would ever work. It's a workplace, people. The same rules kind of apply. You're not, and people do, but listen.
Don't fuck your boss, basically.
People date at work, right? And so actors are going to meet each other on film
Sure.
sets, and you're going to find later that they're dating. And you know what? Especially when your work changes a lot, people are going to meet potential romantic partners at work. It's going to happen. But when power dynamics are involved, it's fucking creepy. Don't do it. What the hell? At Thomas, every time he was on screen, Vincent Cassel is a great actor.
He's so good.
But I was I just wanted to barf every time he was on screen. He made me so mad.
Right. And I think maybe that's what it is. It's the fact that like everybody was like, okay, cool. Like it's obviously he fucked Beth, who we'll talk about in a second. Obviously he wants to fuck Nina. Maybe he fucked Lily. Maybe he's just fucking everybody. But it was just like so nonchalant.
He does what he wants, and it's not romantic. It's a power grab. It's
100%.
It's not. There's nothing in his heart that loves these women.
No.
Well, okay, so that was the weird thing for me. With that one, I think we're all talking about the one scene where they're dancing together. He takes over for the main lead, for the prince, and they're rehearsing.
Yes.
I didn't
And
get
feels
this,
her up.
I didn't get the sense that he was actually. As you're watching the scene, you think that he is going to actually try to seduce her and have sex with her, and then he stops and he goes, "That was me seducing you."
It has to be the other way around.
So using it as a teaching tool?
I think he was in a really disgusting manner, but I think he was trying to get her to go beyond, because the entire movie he's telling her, you can be the princess, you can be the good girl. I don't think you can be the bad girl. I can be the seductress, and he's trying to get her to have this metamorphosis.
I think in that moment he is trying to do what he is trying to do in a very fucked up, unhealthy way.
So nasty.
To make her a better dancer,
Yes.
but he's also getting his rocks off by having complete power over her.
Probably true.
And you could say by looking at her face and the way that Natalie Portman plays that scene that it's quote unquote consensual.
She doesn't know what she
But
wants.
she doesn't know what she wants.
No, because she is a child.
And she
Still,
has
yeah.
and she has to do what he wants her to do because he's her boss and he holds all of her dreams in his hands. There's an incredible amount of responsibility that he abuses over and over and over again.
And I'm not saying that it was okay. I'm just saying that's the sense that I ended up with at the end of that scene.
Yeah,
It's like,
but you can do shitty things for good reasons.
Exactly.
And he did a really shitty thing for potentially. But all I wanted this whole movie was for him to say, in this rehearsal, Nina, don't worry so much about physical perception. I just want you to feel it. I just want you to emotionally, just don't worry about the, and I guess he did try to say, he's shouting, let go. But I don't think, he just needed to sit down with her and say, while we're in rehearsal.
Right.
Just play it and do the emotional.
Yeah, don't be so technical.
Or even do things that are not considered dancing, like do some kind of talk therapy acting stuff, where you sit around and talk about your backstory.
As an actor, you sit and do table work, sometimes for days or weeks, to try to get to know these characters.
And so if he wants her to be a better actor, use some of those acting techniques in a rehearsal. You don't, feel her up and try to,
Hey, ugh.
He even suggested to her, though, and this is unprofessional too, I don't think any boss should ever tell their employee to go masturbate at home, but he was trying to get her to become an adult and a sexual being, I think, is what his role in the show.
And again, there are ways to say those things.
Right.
It's this is a very sensual character. You have to bring a lot of sexuality to it. I just want you to think about, your own sexuality and how you could bring that onto, and leave it there. But before he tells her to go finger herself, he tells her she asks her if she's a virgin.
Yes.
To which she's like,
inappropriate.
No. And of course you're like, she's
Yeah.
lying.
You're 100% a virgin.
Obviously a virgin.
Yes.
Living in New York City.
We've seen your room. We know you're a
Oh my
virgin.
God. She certainly never brought any boys to that room.
No,
Well,
sir.
creepy pedos might have gotten off on that room. But,
Blech. All right, moving on to another creepy character. The wonderful, the fabulous, the underused in life Barbara Hershey as Erica Sayers, Nina's mom.
like Thomas, I love her, and she's a brilliant actor, and every time I saw her on screen, I just wanted to slap her. Oh, I just wanted to slap her so hard.
So there is also the trope of stage mom.
Yep.
And, you've seen it in shows, you've seen it in books, you've seen it in real life. You know, I would consider Venus and Serena's father a brilliant man, but also a stage dad, 100%. And, you know, they're usually, you know, choosing their entire lives to better their kids' lives in sometimes a very pushy, very mean, very, you know, Gypsy Rose Lee as an example.
Yep.
You know, one of my favorite musicals. Cast me in 20 years as Mama Rose, please. But yes, I mean, the worst kinds of stage mom is, you know, and what I liked about the Barbara Hershey character as a stage mom is that she does it from a psychological viewpoint versus, you know, I'm going to get my daughter whatever I want. You know, she's not at the studio. She's not, you know, pushing the director, but she manipulates Nina at home so that she can then, you know, sort of use that for her trajectory, which is interesting, which is a different kind of stage mom and maybe even a more horrifying stage mom because, you know, you want your home to be your sanctuary, but every time Nina goes home, she doesn't know what kind of mom she's going to get.
Yeah. And the thing about a stage mom that makes them so terrifying is that do they want their children to succeed so that their children can be happy? Or do they want their children to succeed because they're living their entire life vicariously through their children?
Because they didn't get that opportunity.
They did, whatever success they ever had or didn't have. Or maybe even, you know, I've met some stage moms who had no show business aspirations of their own, but making their kid a success makes them feel like a success.
Yep.
And it becomes, you know, and I have a friend whose child is very talented, has some television credits to his name already, and he's a very young man. And she is kind of being a stage mom right now. And I've talked to her, and I've said, what happens if he says, I don't want to do this anymore? And she was like, well, on the one hand, if he really doesn't want to do it anymore, we're not going to do it anymore.
Right.
But on the other hand, if one failure sends him to the point where it's like, I can't handle rejection, she might say, but you love doing this and rejection's part of the deal and maybe you should just learn to live with it. You know, but it's a, you know, because she's really
dance.
trying not to be that, but you know, it's hard, right? Because it's like, you know, these are children who are working as professionals. And in ballet, I don't even know that it's that much of a cliche or a trope because these women, once you are 30, you are over the
Oh, you're
fucking
done.
hill.
You're done. But you're starting at 3, 4.
Well, but that's it.
Yeah.
You're at your prime in your early 20s, but you have to have 15 years of dance experience behind you to dance in the way that professional dance companies need you to do it. Therefore, they're tiny little tots when they're starting and giving their entire lives to this art form that isn't even all that relevant in today's society. Not nearly as much as it once was.
Right.
You know, don't come at me, ballet people. You know, but it's true. You know, I mean, it's a very particular art form that if you want to give your life to it, there are a lot of ballet fans. You know, they're still sell out all that. But at the same time, it's a very different life you're choosing, and you have to choose it at a very young age. And most of the time, it gets chosen for you.
Well, and what I find interesting is, you know, to give it sort of a 2020 spin is I read an article recently about, you know, sort of kid YouTubers and kid Instagrammers. And, you know, it's like a sort of a new breed of stage mom and dad, these moms and dads who manage their child influencer's career. And, you know, they post videos and they get the sponsorships. And it's one of those things, you know, if your kid was like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know, would you stop? Because, you know, some of these, you know, that one kid who like, I don't know, unboxes, I'm not a YouTuber, don't at me, you know, unboxes stuff, makes like $8 million a year in sponsorships and appearances and other things and for his videos and revenue, whatever. You know, would you really want to stop that coming through? You know, so I sort of see that as the next sort of stage of the next stage mom and dad is those sort of child influencers and child YouTube stars.
Yep. But she was great. We loved her.
We love her. We love Barbara Hershey and everything. Beaches is one of my favorite movies of all time. Then we have, speaking of washed up at 30, I think this was Winona Ryder's first movie after the whole shoplifting mishigas.
It was one of the first.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh, they cast Winona Ryder
right.
in a movie.
She's
where it was
back.
Kind of controversial. Yeah.
So she plays the quote washed up Beth McIntyre, who was the prima ballerina of the dance company, of the ballet company, and you know, flesh young blood rules in the arts.
And Winona Ryder was 38 or 39 when this was actually filmed. So in real life, she would have been well over the hill.
Oh, for sure.
By the time, like, you know, she wouldn't have been bitter about if she had a head on her shoulders. She wouldn't have been bitter about the fact that she'd been retired. She'd been grateful that she had such a great long run because and she would be teaching somewhere. That's what they would do. But of course, she wanted to, you know, she wanted to be the prima ballerina again, and she was mad that her dressing room is being given away to some little kid.
Yep.
And not a very gracious mentor as she was leaving. It was just funny when I talked to Stacey about this movie. She said that when she first saw Winona Ryder come out of the dressing room and just go "what" after tracking, she wondered if that was going to be her entire role, and she kind of hoped that it would be, because what a great role,
right.
But
get some money, one day on set.
No, but I really liked what Winona Ryder added to this movie. It's a very, very small role, but it kind of fits that there's a star in it.
Yeah.
Because Beth is her presence looms over the entire movie.
Yes.
Even though she's only got like a couple of scenes. It's interesting. Did you notice in the credits of this movie some of the ways in which people were credited?
No.
So when you watch the credits, it actually says Natalie Portman as Nina / the Swan Queen.
Oh, yes, I did see that, and I debated putting it in our outline.
Nina
Yeah.
as Lily / the Black
Swan.
Vincent Cassel as Thomas / the Gentleman.
Barf.
That's irony. Barbara Hershey as Erica / the Queen, and Winona Ryder as Beth / the Dying Swan. Which is interesting because there is no character in Swan Lake called the Dying Swan. The swan does die at the end.
Right.
It's not a separate character. But I thought it was just an interesting, for her especially,
yes.
because there isn't really a Swan Lake tie-in that's direct, but he created this thing where he even gave her kind of a
character,
kind of title name.
Role.
So that was interesting.
And then last but not least is I only put this in because I'm tell you why in a second. Is Benjamin Millepied?
I think so.
I think so.
I know why you put him in there.
Yeah. As David, also the prince. So Natalie and Benjamin met on set and got married and now have 2 kids. So
Those are beautiful children.
I'm sure that they are gorgeous.
And he choreographed this movie
Yes.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was the choreographer for the whole thing.
He was the head of the Paris Ballet. He was in charge of the Paris Ballet, and then I think they moved to New York when they got married. But I now knowing that now, and watching the movie and watching them dance together, it's like I could see if you're 2 single people dancing this very intense role, being in this very intense movie, probably falling in love.
So there's one other cast member that I wondered if you were going to put in or not. Did you notice that Sebastian Stan?
I did. I actually thought about putting. It's so funny. Eric knows me too well. I actually thought about putting him in only because when I was looking at the cast list, I was like, Sebastian Stan is in this movie, and then I made sure to keep an eye out for when he appears.
And he's, it's a small role, but it's substantial. He matters to the plot.
He does.
The one thing that I would say is a little tiny quibble I have about Black Swan, and it's not what the movie's about, and I get that, but you set a movie in the world of ballet, and there's not a single gay man in the entire film. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like that whoever, and the thing is, David was not really, other than she saw Lily cup his junk in, the wings and blah, 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 blah.
But did she?
I don't think she did.
I don't think she did either.
I don't think she did. I think
we're going to talk about that.
And I think a lot of the stuff that where Lily behaves less than perfectly was actually Nina making all that.
Yes.
If they could have left that one scene out, which I think we already have a better scene of her catching Thomas and Lily,
having
sexy time in the rehearsal room, that did what that needed to do. They should have given David a boyfriend. They should have just, because that most of these guys who play principal roles in ballet, it just would have been nice to see a little bit of representation in a world where we are everywhere in ballet.
I'm going to be contrary to that, and I don't know that it would have helped the story any, and I don't know that we should assume what anybody's sexuality is in anything.
I think when you're looking at a ballet company, you know that most of those guys are gay. They just are. It's just, they just are. It's just, and it's one of those things where, it's just, to me, it was, again, tiny little quibble, and like I said before, not what the movie's about. It is not what the movie's about. But it does kind of dissect this art form and show in a lot of ways the flaws about it. I notice one of the first things we see is when Natalie Portman gets out of bed, she crinkles her toes and makes the most disgusting sound, and it's just like she's already wrecking her body.
Yeah, she's pretty fucked up. Yeah,
to do this thing, and it's really hard on your body doing all that ballet. But it is an art form that our community has pretty much fucking invented.
Yeah.
And, Tchaikovsky, hello, we hear his music the whole time. And a little bit of credit would have been nice in terms of, it's like who actually, anyway.
More representation.
Well, exactly. Gay representation right there, because many people think Tchaikovsky was actually gay.
He totally was. Yeah, he totally was.
So All right, well, this leads very nicely into our next topic of discussion is dance movies. Now, I think part of the reason why I love Black Swan so much is that I love dance movies. I love them all. I particularly love Center Stage, which also doesn't have a lot of gay characters in it. So when you were talking about that, I sort of was like, neither of the two main leads in Center Stage are gay either. What do you guys think? Do you like dance movies? Do you hate dance movies? Are you agnostic about dance movies? I can't dance. I can sing and I can act and I can't dance. And it is one of the greatest sadnesses of my life. I mean, I'm being very dramatic, shocking. But like, it is very sad to me that I do not have the ability to dance because I love to dance and I wish that I could do it on a grander scale.
So when you say dance movies, do you mean movies about dancers or movies where there's just a lot musicals that have a lot of dance numbers?
Dance culture. So
Okay.
like movies about the
dancers.
Dance culture.
Yeah, to me it's any movie about a culture that I am not particularly immersed in is interesting to me. And so dancers it's a part of that.
Yeah.
Certainly. It's funny when you wrote down dance movies, I'm going to date myself because I'm like the old one at the table. The first thing that came to my mind was Flashdance. Not a great movie.
Not a, I mean, a pivotal moment in the world.
Yes, when the water splashes
Yes.
all over that, everyone thinks of that, and it was a great moment. But it's like, and again, it's somebody whose dream is to get into the ballet company, but in the meantime, she's dancing at the nightclub while she is working as a welder during the day, because that's what you do.
That's a lot in one sentence. Wow.
In the end, she gets into the fancy ballet company by breakdancing for the ballet.
Hashtag 1984.
So would not ever happen, but oh well. And to me, it's like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are good movies and sometimes there are bad ones. I mean, I think that one of the things that Darren Aronofsky was trying to do here was a real critique of ballet culture and what these girls go through. How they wreck their bodies, how they stunt their psychological growth, there is
physical growth because they never really mature.
Yeah, there is a
physically
real critique here, and one of the things that I read, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but I'm doing it to make a point here. So sorry about messing up your outline.
Gosh.
But Aronofsky
fired.
said that this was basically part 2 of The Wrestler as far as he was concerned,
right?
Because The Wrestler is another movie about
I know, I read that too.
a style of performance that forces people to wreck their bodies, and and the kind of dedication that it takes to do that. And The Wrestler is about someone at the end of their career. This is about somebody at the beginning of their career.
It's a great movie, by the way.
The same themes come out.
Yes.
In terms of, and so, I like this as both a kind of in the world of dancing, and I just love the, sure, let's get on the subway in your cute little sweater and then spend your morning at the bar, doing your lovely movements in class and all those things, and just kind of the atmosphere of it, and all of that was great. Not every movie about a dancer is fabulous. It's just, there are good movies and there are bad movies, and some of them are about dancers and some of them are not.
True.
But I do love dancing on screen.
I do too.
Just,
very much so.
An American in Paris. If it was the second version, I was like, oh yeah, An American in Paris. I can watch that whole dance sequence all day, every day.
I mean, that's how I feel about the greatest ballet movie ever made, Center Stage, and the end sequence is I could watch that on a loop, like over and over and over again. Yeah. It's fabulous. Well, and it's interesting because I'm an actress, and I know that you guys have dabbled in the arts. We talk about ballet culture, and I think perhaps that's the most extreme of the arts, but all of the arts inspire, for people who want to be good, that obsession and that perfection and that going to extreme levels for their craft or their art, whatever it is. Yep. We just happen to be focusing on ballet here, and like I said, that might be a little bit more of an extreme example, but, I'm an amateur actor by, I wouldn't consider myself, maybe semi-professional. I'm too high maintenance to be a starving artist is what I joke. I'm just not really that competitive is honestly what it means. But like there have been times when I'm in roles where, maybe I'm obsessing over what I'm going to look like in my costume. And so I'm like crazy dieting, and maybe I'm obsessing over what I'm going to sound like or how my voice is going to be. So I'm, on vocal rest, or I'm doing this. And, even just as somebody who doesn't do it as a full-time position, it's very easy to get into those sort of like obsessive perfection roles. And so I thought that this was an interesting view into that because it really does a deep dive into that, in that striving for perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but you can do that about a lot of things, and as long as it's that kind of level, that obsessive kind of quality about, I will do this and I will do it so well. I think a lot of times people find it interesting to do it in terms of the arts because the end result is something that's also pleasant to watch on a movie screen.
Usually beautiful.
Yeah, and so that can always be, the big kind of explosion of did they reach their dream or not is actually an entertaining thing to kind of witness. But also there's this idea, I think, for a lot of people, like, who would give their life to do that? What, so you could stand on your toes and wear a tutu and
right, like
flitter
fuck
around
up your
the stage?
feet?
Like, like for what? Like, what are you really doing? And people who are in the arts feel very differently, and I believe in my gut that stories are so important to humans understanding who they are.
And their history, absolutely.
Theater, novels, whatever the art form you want to, but storytelling is such a, it's something that human beings have to do. And hearing stories and seeing yourself reflected in stories is just a really, it's something you have to do to be psychologically healthy. And so to me, it's not a nothing thing to give your entire life to. Now, ballet, personally, I feel kind of removed from because it's hard for me to put myself on stage when I'm watching a ballet.
Yeah, guess what? I took ballet at like 7 years old, and we all knew that was not going to be my dream very quickly when I got on stage.
So I think it's lovely to watch, but I feel a little bit removed from ballet, whereas if it's, there have been some great movies about the theater.
Yep.
Which actually, in a way, one of the most moving movies about the theater I've ever seen, and you're going to laugh so hard at me, is Waiting for Guffman.
I was just about to say Waiting for Guffman. As somebody who has done community theater, I recognize every single person on that stage. I have been some of those people on that stage. I have waited for the reviewer to come and review me or adjudicate me or do whatever. 100%. I do not laugh because I agree.
And when the guy doesn't show up and they all realize that their dream is just not going to, they didn't take a moment to tell a joke in that moment. And I was like almost tearing up in the theater.
You feel it as an actor. Absolutely.
People. Yes. And people are like, that movie made you cry. I'm like, okay, I've been in that world and shut up. You don't understand.
Yes, you don't. When you're rehearsing 5 days a week for your community theater play, that's going to have, 3 weekends of shows, and you just give yourself because you want to be good at your craft. Yes, 100%. Yep. Waiting for Guffman, the best.
Anyway.
All right. So this is billed as a psychological horror movie.
Tracks.
I don't know that it's a horror film. I think visually people think it's a horror film. I think it's a psychological thriller. Is how I would see it. I don't know that I see it as a horror film.
Thriller, horror, two sides of the same coin a little bit. When the reflection in the mirror turns around and gives that menacing look, when I saw this in the theater, I remember I jumped so much that a little bit of popcorn fell out of my mouth.
That's always a good gauge.
Yeah, so that I definitely was creeped out several times by what was going on. Not a lot of jump scares like that, and that certainly wasn't even a jump scare. That was a slow, creepy, kind of. And, I'll tell you what, the most disturbing thing in this whole film is when her cuticle peels back.
Oh, I couldn't watch that this time. I knew it was coming and I couldn't watch it. I was like, I just turned away. I was like, and then I turned back too soon. And I was like, no, I turned back too soon. Yeah, no.
So in that sense, there are a couple of things that do give you that feeling that a horror movie can, provide. But yeah, thriller,
Thriller, horror. So I think that the basis for this movie is we know that Nina is going through a psychotic break. We know that she's unstable at the beginning, and the elements of the movie and what's transpiring to take on these dual roles, which ballet dancers have said is the hardest role in ballet to do because you have to play these two totally different, separate characters.
And again, there's no rule that says you have to cast the same ballerina as both, but almost everyone does because the whole conceit of the story is the prince thinks they're the same person because they look exactly alike.
Right, and it brings the drama. So the biggest question to me in this movie, and what I really thought about as I was reading it and doing a little research, watching it for the second time, doing a little research after, is what is real and what isn't. Because that's always the question when you see these sort of psychological movies, am I seeing what I'm really seeing? And I think specifically the Lily scenes, because, that she's sort of used as the foil for Nina. Is she really as quote unquote bad as she seems? Is what's happening really happening? Is she fucking Toma'i? Is she doing all of these things? Like, what is real and what's not? And I went down a little bit of a Reddit hole reading about it, and the consensus seems to be that half of the Lily scenes are real and half of them are not.
I think this movie some of it has to be real or else there's no movie. I've heard people say the entire thing's a metaphor. I'm like, well, then that's stupid. So
No, there's definitely some real scenes in this movie.
But I think the movie does a pretty good job of telling you absolutely that some of the things are false. Lily did not spend the night at Nina's apartment because Lily says so the next day.
She probably did not leave the club. That's probably where the break is right there.
That Lily didn't leave the club?
I mean, Lily didn't leave the club.
Yeah, so when Nina walked out...
Yep.
She didn't bring her back, right?
She never... And you'll notice... Mom never had any interactions with Lily.
Which I didn't realize until I went down this Reddit subhole, and I was like, oh, like she never says her name, and she says that there's no one at the door, and like I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think she and Lily definitely went out to the club.
Yeah.
So there was somebody at the door the first time, but she didn't bring Lily home with her, and her mother was acting, in a way that was consistent with Nina walking back in alone. And, she grabs Nina on her way to the bed, but, her mother just thinks Nina just ran back by herself because she's having this delusion. One of the things that I found, one of the theories online that I found the most interesting is if you look at the White Swan and the Black Swan, kind of the old Nina and the new Nina, as good versus evil, that's okay, you can do that. But another more nuanced way to look at it is to look at child versus woman. That the Black Swan, when you see the Black Swan emerge, it's not so much that it's an evil presence within Nina that's taking over her. She's just growing up, but she's forced to grow up too fast and too late.
And in a really shitty way.
In a really shitty way, under this cauldron of pressure, because she's the prima ballerina at New York's leading ballet company, so we're led to believe. I mean, who else has that huge performing arts space?
Right, who performs at Lincoln Center.
Yeah, exactly. And so all of this kind of stuff is just, it's happening. And I am going to go out on a limb and say,
oh boy,
she doesn't die at the end.
Okay, well, so that was going to literally be my next question or one of the next questions is she dead at the end?
I don't think she is. And here's why. Because if we're to believe that she actually stabbed herself when she thought she was stabbing Lily, and then Lily turned into her, and then Lily turned back into Lily after she died, and blah, 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 blah.
It was a lot.
There was a lot going on there. We know that she didn't kill anybody else because we know that Lily survived that whole thing. As we see her later. We go into the closet where she supposedly hid the body, and there's no body there. So, all of a sudden we know that, and then that's the moment she looks down and realizes she's stabbed. That is supposedly like, oh, she stabbed herself. Okay, she did not stab herself and then go dance brilliantly as the Black Swan, and then come back and dance brilliantly in the finale.
Right.
And then bleed out and die. That did not happen. Like, that to me makes absolutely no sense. What I think is going on is that, she stabs, her, the kind of the person who's in her way so she can become the Black Swan. She doesn't notice that there's a shard of glass in her own belly, which I think is a delusion, until she's back in the White Swan costume because the child is dying. The child is dying, the new Nina is emerging, and that's
so deep.
What's going on. I think that's what's happening. When I read all this analysis before I watched it the final time, I was like, actually the first time I saw this, I was like, what's real? What's not? I'm so confused. And when I watched it again with that lens, it was actually pretty clear to me what she was making up and what was. So I buy into that theory. And I think that, she probably imagined everyone crowding around her going, Nina, are you okay? And da-da-da-da. And it's the child who says, it was perfect, and fades to white and goes away. And then I think they were like, okay, take your curtain call. And the woman got up and took her curtain call, and now she's a grown-up. She had to go through something very painful, but I think that's what happened. So that's my take on Black Swan.
I definitely didn't get that deep, but when I saw the movie in the movie theater, I definitely thought she died. However, when I saw it this time, and I obviously knew it was coming, and so I sort of watched it with a little bit more like, what's going on? I also don't think that she died. I think that I don't know if I think that her stabbing herself is a delusion. Maybe I still think she stabbed herself, but I think that either they took her to the hospital or whatever. But it would be kind of funny if she was like near Beth's room in the hospital. If they like in Black Swan 2, the swanning.
Did Beth really stab herself in the cheek with a nail file?
Right.
I'm thinking no.
I think no. I think that was a delusion.
Yeah. But I think that's who Nina was afraid of becoming. And so that's the moment where her fears just manifest herself.
Yep.
And I think that she put a lot on Lily. I think Lily is a nice girl who's a dancer, who's a young woman who's enjoying her youth and living her best life.
A little bit more chill, obviously.
And doing things that Nina cannot do because she's not mature enough to have the agency to make those choices for herself. But because all of that seems so dangerous, then she puts a lot. So I don't think that Lily was feeling up her, her co-star.
No, and I don't think she had sex with Thomas. Well, maybe I did think.
She could have,
maybe,
but who cares?
but like,
that's her own business. That's fine. I would think that Lily has better taste than that.
we would hope.
But I do think Lily actually did ask Nina, so how is he?
Right. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that she did come to her room. I think the apology where she came into her room and said, I know things have been weird, but I just want you to know you just blew me away. I think that happened. I think Lily probably was her alternate, but again, just, it's just like, he made me your alternate. Like, it's not, that's
right, like, you're not the most stable person in the world.
But when I take out all the scenes that I think Nina made up and I just look at what's left, it's not a lot, but it's a portrait of a young woman who's just enjoying life being a ballerina in New York City because she worked all this, time for it, and now she's just having a good time.
Right, she's got a hot bod, like.
She went home with Tom.
Yeah, Tom of Tom and Jerry.
Sebastian Stan.
I'd go home with Sebastian Stan too. One thing that I did notice on the second viewing is that the movie is really shot in a way to inspire claustrophobia. A lot of mirrors, a lot of like small areas, a lot of gray corridors, and I really felt that claustrophobia, and I felt that sort of like trapped sense that Nina feels while I was watching the movie, and I thought that was really clever. And obviously there's going to be a lot of mirrors because it's a ballet company and there's a lot of mirrors when you dance, but even in those sort of like stark concrete dressing rooms, like even in Beth's hospital room, even in Nina's room, it felt very claustrophobic, and I think that was part of how Nina sort of saw the world.
A lot of the analysis I read about this movie had a great deal to say about all the mirrors. And on the one hand, it's a way, because it is a very internally focused, it's a way to make the internal external.
Right.
When you're looking at your own reflection, that is your enemy there, and you can actually see it, your
enemy or your friend.
But it's also this thing where in the world of ballet, you're constantly checking out your own reflection. You do in front of the bar, you do it in front of a mirror, so you can make that all perfect. And her whole desire to be perfect all the time is this judgment of herself. And do you like what you see in the mirror? And ballet, where they didn't really get into this, some people suggest that perhaps Nina was bulimic. I didn't think that. She throws up a couple times in the movie, but it's always when she's super stressed out. And I think
she definitely had an eating disorder, for sure.
Well, I mean, closer to anorexia then. I mean, she wouldn't eat any cake.
She did not.
But again, that was a whole statement.
Eat the cake.
She had lost 3 pounds, and when she was getting fitted for the outfit and everything, the woman was very happy for her.
Yeah. Oh, you lost weight.
Yeah. And she's so.
I mean, she's like as big as this microphone here.
Yeah. She did not need to lose 3 pounds. But she's eating grapefruit and a poached egg at the beginning. It's like that's her breakfast, and she's going to go basically be an athlete all day.
Right.
And that's going to be what she eats. Yeah, but I don't think it was bulimia necessarily.
No, I don't think so.
I think the throwing up was always like, this is a moment of high stress for her, so
right.
It comes. But there's a lot of stuff about, that's part of his critique of ballet, is how these people in this world
torture their bodies, basically.
Torture themselves psychologically by creating these ideals that no one can possibly live up to. And mirrors are just kind of emblematic of that as well.
Yeah. And I really felt also, I love the movie Rosemary's Baby. I love it.
Love it.
I could watch it on a loop. Ruth Gordon is my hero. I love that movie.
Earned every inch of that Oscar.
Oh my gosh. I want them to do Rosemary's Baby the musical so I can play the Ruth Gordon. I love that movie so much. And I did, and some of the critiques I read sort of likened a little bit of that the Rosemary's Baby tone and, what is real, what's not.
Now that you say that, the prologue, do you remember the prologue of Black Swan where she's dreaming?
Yes.
And so it's the whole thing is the dance and then the evil sorcerer Rothberg comes up. As soon as I saw him, I was like, that's the devil from Rosemary's Baby.
Yes!
It totally is. Yes.
Yeah, so I think there might be some Aronofsky homage to Rosemary's Baby. But if you guys have not seen Rosemary's Baby or haven't seen it in a while, it holds up, and it was one of the scarier movies like from my childhood growing up.
Totally. The devil movies all got me as a kid. I grew up Catholic.
Oh boy.
So that one, the Amityville Horror, the Omen.
Oh, the Amityville Horror is so good.
I mean, anytime Satan
Exorcist.
was invoked, the Exorcist. Yeah. Anytime Satan or devil stuff was, those scared the shit out of me. And now I'm probably like,
Right.
I'm not as Dracula, Satan, whatever. They're all kind of part of the same canon for me now. But those are the ones and Rosemary's Baby is definitely included in there. And when she takes him at the end, it's like, it's my baby.
It's my baby. And you never really see the baby, so you have to imagine it. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. So let's talk about sex.
Let's talk about
sex, baby. I actually Love that song too. There's a lot of weird sex going on and a lot of like weird sexual things in this movie.
And I kind of go back to that's how kids with no experience view sex. Sex is scary.
Yes.
And it is kind of dirty. And it is kind of, it's creepy and it's violating and it's all of those things. I mean, informed consent is a beautiful thing. I mean,
Yes.
you have it. Sex is just, it can be fun and it can be a romp and it can be all,
awesome.
But when you are psychologically stunted and you're a prepubescent child in the body of a 23-year-old woman, sex is
It's real
terrifying.
fucked up. It's really fucked up.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So I just thought that those moments, the infamous moment where Tomago tells her to go home and masturbate, which is inappropriate on so many levels to begin with. But, Nina being the good student goes home and does it. And then she does it and she rolls over and sees her mom in the chair. And oh my God, I had forgotten about it. Eric had mentioned something about it and then I had forgotten about it. And then I was reminded in the movie and, I'm watching it by myself and I go, oh my God, out loud.
I have discussed my vicarious embarrassment disorder, I was literally watching the next 5 minutes of that movie through the little square made by my hands over my eyes. The little window that I created for myself. I cringed so hard I think I left my body.
Yeah, for sure.
But again, it's like right when you think, okay, I'm like, as an actor,
Yep,
she's really committing to this moment.
I mean,
and,
get it, girl.
Listen, masturbation is healthy.
Right.
And I was kind of glad she was doing it
Yep.
in a way, like, sorry that the advice came from such a creeper, but, okay. But then, the way to end that scene and just make it, take everything that was healthy about it away from the instant is her mother is sleeping in the room.
I cannot.
And I don't think she imagined that.
No, I think that was 150% real.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. So that, sort of kicks off.
But the other thing is the scene where Mila Kunis goes down on her, which was a fantasy that's
Right.
been established by the movie. But
It's
also
hot, though.
pretty hot, right?
It's pretty hot.
I mean, it's just like
Pretty hot.
I'm like, oh,
Okay.
okay, Mina. I think I believe that Mila Kunis knew her way around it.
1,000%. Yes. So it's just interesting, sort of, but I think you hit the nail on the head. She is a child in a woman's body, and that is how she's going to view sex. Maybe a little titillating, maybe a little creepy. But yeah, I thought it was clever. I don't feel like the sexual parts of it were overdone in any way. I thought it really did speak to the story.
I think the first time I saw this movie, I was like, why is sex so, like, why? This is why we're afraid of it. It's because these movies get made, and like,
Right.
sex is seen as this really scary thing. But then when I appreciate the fact that this movie is made from Nina's perspective, of course she's going to think sex is that scary.
Yeah.
I did.
We all
it was
did. We all
something
had that moment.
Yeah. So to me, it was totally appropriate for someone in her psychological condition.
So, wrapping it up a little bit, both leads trained for 6 months to be ballet dancers. They were themselves from the waist up, and they had body doubles, like ballet doubles, from the waist down. And even in some of the longer shots when they were actually dancing, they were body doubles.
Yeah.
I think they looked like ballet dancers. They certainly had that.
To my untrained eye,
Yeah.
I thought both, when I saw them in close-up, I believed that their extension looked fine. I don't know.
Sure.
And also I have to give props to the editors. I had to remind myself I was watching Body
Yeah,
Doubles,
same.
because it really did look very seamless.
Yes.
They found people with body types that were almost exactly like the two of them. And I will say the one moment that I was a little like, that doesn't really look like a trained ballet dancer, was when Mila Kunis was kind of joking around in class, and Natalie Portman was observing her. But that did serve a dramatic purpose. When Tomasa was just, look at her, look how easy she is, look
Yes.
at how effortless it looks. That's what I need you to do. And it did look effortless, and it did look, I got that from that, but it didn't look like the Bolshoi.
Right.
It
A ballet
really-
dancer,
it
like a
really did
professional
not.
ballet dancer.
But I kind of also got, I didn't really see a teacher. I saw them, they were working, but I saw a bunch of students just kind of having fun
hanging
together.
out.
And so I forgave that moment. That was fine with me. But apparently, a lot of people with ballet training look at this movie and go,
They don't like it at all.
yeah, and whatever. Like, you needed actors to play these roles because it was more important that Lily and Nina had their interactions in the club
Yes.
believably than looked like they were. And that's why, I mean, it does give credence to the idea that people do train their whole lives to do this. Because 6 months of rigorous training was not enough to fool ballet dancers into thinking that was, because you can't do it. I mean, you can't do it. But I think most people who don't know much about ballet, I think it worked pretty well.
One thing that I did read about the quote-unquote controversies is that a lot of ballet dancers were pissed because the actual ballet dancers, the doubles that were used, didn't really get their due, and that people did think that Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman were dancing and, you know, giving them lavish praise about it. And, you know, the general population didn't know that they were these basically actual prima ballerinas who were doing the footwork, and that they didn't really get the recognition that they deserved, which is part of the reason why a lot of ballet dancers didn't like this movie.
I can understand that. I mean, it's a rigorous life to get to where you are as a dancer.
Right, and just to assume that...
I get it, but at the same time, this isn't a ballet. It's a movie about ballet. If you give them too much, you know, so there's a video that I put on our Facebook page recently all about the year that Audrey Hepburn played Eliza Doolittle and Julie Andrews ended up winning the Oscar for Mary Poppins. And part of the whole thing was that, you know, that Audrey was dubbed.
Right.
That Marnie Nixon, who dubbed everybody in those old movies, you know, came in and sang pretty much the entire role. And people thought that, you know, Audrey Hepburn did not get an Oscar nomination that year because it's like, well, you didn't do your own singing, therefore you really only did half the performance, blah, blah, blah. And the studio basically came as everyone dubs. Like almost no one did their own singing in some of these Golden Age musicals. And so for him it was like big deal. But also it was, you know, this is a film that you had to kind of lose yourself in.
Right.
And if you believe
quite literally.
Yeah. And if you believe that they were doing their own dancing, okay, I assumed that they always weren't, especially when the camera was just on a pair of toe
Of
shoes
course, right.
on point. I was like, they did not make Natalie Portman do that.
Right.
That, you know, because they didn't.
And you can't learn that in 6 months.
You can probably learn to stand on point, but not all the little, you know, like flitting across while looking like you're standing still while doing this thing with your arms. And I mean, you know, I assumed that there were a lot of dancing body doubles in it. I didn't need there to be a whole PR campaign about it.
Right.
You know, and it just,
no mercy.
And they were making a movie. I mean, it wasn't like you were. If I went to go see a ballet on stage,
right,
and somebody was actually dancing the role of somebody else with a heavy veil and didn't get credit for it, I'd be like, that sucks.
Right.
Like, give the, you know. But that wasn't this. This is get over it.
I mean, I don't really feel one way or the other, but I thought that was interesting. Just interesting.
Yeah, the more controversy I've heard is that, you know, whenever they were in close up, it's like their dancing's not very good.
Right.
And that to me that's just interesting because I don't know enough to tell you whether it's good or not.
For sure I don't.
But it looked fine to me. So.
I mean, who are we? We're not dancers. All right, we have a game to play.
We're gonna play a game.
I
love this game. It's one of my favorite games.
We haven't played this game in a while, actually. So we're gonna play Lullaby of Broadway. So what I want each of you to do, myself included, is what moment in this very twisted movie would you turn into a musical number?
So we are producing Black Swan the musical
the musical
on Broadway, and we have to come up with musical numbers in the. Okay, I know what mine is.
All right, Matt, you good?
Yeah.
All right, Matt, kick us off.
I'm gonna go for the most dramatic scene, or at least I think it's the end where she actually has the full psychotic break, and she's turning into the swan. Like in her mind, and she's just, I mean,
and it's like actually coming out of her back.
Yeah,
the wings. So like she's like that's where the scratches are, right?
Because I would love to see somebody actually figure out how to do that on stage.
I bet they could do it.
I think that they could do that for sure.
But you know, and it's got to be dark music, and I'm thinking kind of like Sweeney Todd-esque, you know, Sondheim musical.
Yes.
But I would call it One Flew Over. And
and black swans would come out of those piles and fly over the audience.
It would be like Cats, but with black swans.
It would be like Hitchcock's The Birds,
yes,
but with an army of black swans.
Yes, just to
fabulous.
Freak out the audience. Eric, what do you got?
So mine, I actually, you know, to me, one of the most important scenes in the movie, dramatically speaking, is when Nina has not gotten the role yet. She fucked up her audition. She doesn't think she's going to get the role. And in fact, Thomas tells her she didn't get the role.
Right.
I've already cast Veronica, whoever that was. But when Thomas tries to kiss her and she bites him, something in him goes, oh, maybe she could be the black.
She's got a little spice.
All.
Got a little spice.
Creepy fucking Thomas is trash. Fuck the patriarchy. Oh my God.
That's the hashtag for this particular podcast. Homage trash.
But I did envision this scene where he's telling her what he wants from her as a dancer, and she's trying to tell him, but I can do better, and I practice, and I do. And it could be this interesting duet between the two of them, where they're each having their own conversation, and the other one is not really listening to each other.
Okay.
And I think that lends itself well to kind of a musical treatment. Halfway through the song, they could even both face the audience and have the storyline that they're, but music that flows well together, and melodies that complement each other. And that could be an interesting
I like that.
kind of moment, because they are in two very different places in that particular scene. And I just think that could be interesting. And it could culminate with the big kiss that ends up being the bite, and then she runs. And I also like a song where things happen in the song.
Okay.
Not where we're going to stop the storyline right here so we can all sing, and then we'll pick up the story when the song's over, which happens a lot with those jukebox musicals, because those are not written to be musical theater. This would be a great musical theater song where there's actual character growth halfway, and I just thought that would be interesting. That would be a moment for me.
I like it. So my moment is when they are in the club, El Club, high on ecstasy, rolling, as the kids would say. I've never done ecstasy, so sure. And maybe I will. Life is short. And everybody in the club is like that sort of like deep groove bass. So I see, some sort of choreographed dance, perhaps by somebody who does EDM, really like a creepy choreographed, almost in a ballet sense of them, high on ecstasy with this like dark groove behind them, and, sort of all like moving around the stage as one sort of entity. Growing and moving. And
I almost see Nina in a way, like whoever would play her actually doing ballet while everyone else is doing this, because that's the only way she knows how to dance. It would kind of show off her, like, she doesn't fit in this place, but everyone's so into it that they're like it's cool all of a sudden.
Right.
That this girl's like,
Does that bring
doing
us
these.
back to Flashdance, but in reverse?
No bucket of water.
No bucket of water.
splashes
No,
on
no water. My budget for this musical is not that high, so no welding on stage. So that's. I think that would be a really like a fun, cool,
Awesome.
funky scene.
Let's do it. Black Swan the musical.
Black Swan the musical.
Let's not.
Fund us. Contact us. Fund us. So last but certainly not least, our favorite, skip, rent, or buy. For those of you not familiar with what this means, skip means don't bother. It's a trash movie. It's not worth your time or energy or money. Rent, see it once. You want to see it. It's a pivotal moment in society or the world. And then buy doesn't mean actually buy it. You could, but, holds up to multiple viewings. You want to see it a few times. Where are you, Eric?
I am, and I don't own this movie, but I will say buy only because I have seen it multiple times, and it does show up differently for you every single time.
Yes.
And because you're sometimes a little bit, did that happen? Did that not happen? Like, when you notice that the mother never addresses Lily when Lily's not really in the apartment, but we think she is, that's amazing.
Yes.
And so yeah, I think it does certainly, if this is your thing, you should know by looking at the trailer.
You would know if it's your thing or not, yes,
it's
for sure.
definitely a mood, this movie, and if it's not your mood, then that's fine. But for me, I think it definitely, I have enjoyed it on multiple viewings, and so I would say, for me, it's a buy.
Yeah, I would also say it would be a buy for me. This was only the second time I've seen it, but again, I saw it, and maybe it's because I'm 10 years older than I was when I saw it the first time. I saw it in a completely different light than I saw it when I saw it in the movie theater. I would absolutely 100% watch it again. My buy sort of baseline is if this was on HBO or whatever in a snowstorm, would I stop flipping channels and watch it? And yes, 100%. I would absolutely watch it again because I do think that you would get something different out of it, every time you see it. Matt.
It's funny. When I started watching it the second time, I was like, I wasn't really excited about seeing it the second time, but I really enjoyed the movie again. And it's interesting how the special effects really played into her insanity in a way that I don't think you've ever seen in a movie before.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, that's where it's hard to define whether it was a horror film or whether it was actually her psychological breakdown. I really do think this is a buy. I mean, I think you enjoy it multiple times. I would actually, I didn't think I would say that,
got
but
a
I actually
triple
was gonna
buy.
lie.
Have we ever had a triple
I
buy?
don't know that we've ever
It
had a
holds up to
triple buy
multiple.
before. That's amazing.
All right. Wow.
That's good. I wouldn't have thought it would have been Black Swan. Like,
Of all the movies, all
yes,
right.
I mean, but we've had a couple triple skips
Yeah.
in the Rewind Project
Yeah.
history. I think this is the first time we've had a triple buy.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
All right. So it's history in the making
And I will
here.
also just say, just a little final note, that even if it's not a mood that you're into, but you are just a student of great acting, this performance by Natalie Portman
And great directing, to be honest.
Yes. But her performance to me is something that definitely holds up and people should see.
So that's Black Swan. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Allie.
I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
Be kind. Rewind. Find us on all of your favorite social channels. Rate and review us. And we'll see you here soon. Bye.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us on most podcast listening forums, including iTunes, Radio Public, Stitcher, and Google Play. And don't forget to subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. Thanks for listening. Be kind, rewind.
Let's talk about
Sex, baby.